Hey guys, welcome back to the 13th video, the Python tutorials for beginners series. In this video, we'll be covering list comprehension and the slice operator. So list comprehension is basically a way to generate a Python list. Let's say I want to create a Python list that goes from 0 all the way to 9. We can do this by using a simple for loop. So first I'll create an empty list, then I'll create a for loop that goes from 0 to 9. Then I'll simply append or add each element to my empty list. I can do this using the append function. Finally, I'll just print out my list. And you can see that I get this Python list over here that goes from 0 to 9. Okay, so we can use a for loop for this. However, you can see that it takes up quite a few lines, and we can make this a lot more efficient by using a list comprehension. So I'll make a new list variable, and the syntax for list comprehension is basically you first put square brackets, then x for x in range 0 comma 10, and then I'll just print out my new list here, and you can see that I get the same list. Now the way this works is that first, this is quite similar to our loop syntax in line number 5. So what happens here is that x is updated in each iteration. So first x is equal to 0, then is updated to 1, then it's updated to 2, then 3, then 4, all the way to 9. All right, once x is equal to 9, then the loop is stopped. So again, x starts at 0. So when we start at x is equal to 0, the 0 is added to new list. Since over here you can see that it's x, so x is 0, so it's appended to new list. When x is updated to 1, then 1 is added to new list. So 2 is added to the new list. Then x is equal to 3, then it's added to new list, and so on. All right. So let's say I replace this x with 0. You can see that I get a list of 10 zeros. Now the reason is because this x is updated in each and every single iteration. However, this 0 here remains constant. It is never updated. So that's why in each and every single iteration, we add 0 to the new list. All right, so there are 10 iterations in this loop, so that's why we put 0 into new list 10 times. Now we can also use a for loop. We can also iterate by item in a list comprehension. So let me make a simple list called fruits. All right, then I'll have a new list, new fruits, fruit for fruit in fruits. Okay, so you can see that in this list comprehension, I iterate by item. So the list here is fruits. So fruit is updated in each and every single iteration. So fruit is first apples, the string apples, then it's updated to pears, and finally it's updated to bananas. And each time the element fruit is added to the new fruits list. So first apples, then pears, then bananas is added to my new fruits list, and this is my final output over here. Okay, so that's iteration by item. Finally, you can also add conditionals to your list comprehension. All right, so here's the previous example. So I have a bunch of zeros. Let me change this 0 to x. So we go from 0 to 9. All right, since x is updated each iteration. So what we can do is, let's say I want to only add the even integers to my list. to new list. I can do this by adding a conditional at the end of my for loop. So I'll type if x modulo 2 is equal to 0. So this gives us the remainder when x is divided by 2, and if our remainder is 0, in other words, when x is even, we'll add x to new list. And you can see here that we add only the even numbers to the new list, all right, by checking this conditional. Again, I could just change this by putting comma 2, and I'll get the same result. And in fact, this is more efficient, but just to show how conditionals can be used, I use this example. So when this condition here is true, then x is added to my new list variable. So let's say I want to add a -1 to new list when x is odd. To do that, I have to first take the if statement here and I have to move it over here. All right, so if x modulo 2 is equal to 0 and else -1. So what happens here is that we first check if this conditional is true. So when x is even, this will be true, and if this is true, we'll simply add x to new list. Otherwise, if this is false, we will add this value to new list. So this value is -1, and you can see that my new list is over here, and over here that I have all my even numbers, and all the places where I should have odd numbers, for example, here there should be a 1 and here there should be a 3, they have been replaced with -1 since the odd numbers did not satisfy this condition. I can also add 0. So again, all the positions for the odd numbers are replaced with zeros. So all the odd numbers are replaced with zeros. And if I want to, I can also change this to x. So here, even if my condition is false, I still add x, so I still get the same list. So this condition here is not too useful, so I can just delete that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for list comprehensions and conditionals in list comprehensions. Okay, so now I'll talk about the slice operator. So what the slice operator allows us to do is to take a portion of our list. So here I have declared two lists. So the first list goes from 0 to 9 using a list comprehension, and the second list is a list of fruits. So I have 5 elements over here. So I'll show you. So first we'll just look at the index operator briefly. So the index operator basically indexes each element. So 0 indexes the first element. So because in programming we start counting from 0. So this is position 0, position 1, position 2, 3, and position 4. If I change this to, let's say, position 4, you can see I get bananas, which is the last element. So what I've done here is I've taken a slice of my fruits list. So I have basically typed 0 colon 3 within square brackets. So it looks very similar to the index operator, but it is still quite different. So what I've done is that I start from the position 0. So position 0 is apple. Then I go to position 1. So position 1 is pears. And then I go to position 2, which is strawberries. But I don't go to position 3. I exclude position 3. So the way this works is it's quite similar to a for loop. So we start at 0 and then we go all the way up to, but not including 3 itself. So we only include the elements at positions 1, positions 0, 1, and 2. And then I just put them in a list, and that is my list. That is the slice of my list. All right. So if I change this to 4, I include blueberries itself. I don't include bananas. Even though bananas is at position 4, I don't include it because I stop at position 3, and blueberries is at position 3. If I put 5, you can see that I go all the way up to position 5. If I leave it empty, by default it assumes 5. So if I put in, let's say, 2, I start at position 2, which is strawberries, and then I go to position 3 and then position 4. All right, so everything that comes after position 2 is included in the slice of my list. All right, so if I leave this empty as well, you can see that it just includes the entire list, because if you leave the first number empty, the first place empty, it assumes 0, and if you leave the second place empty, it assumes the last element. Okay, so let me just put the numbers back to make it very clear. 5. So if you remember from my for loop video, I can actually add another argument, right? So I can put in argument 2, and I'll update x by 2. So we start at 0, then I'll add 2 to x. So we go x is equal to 2, then x is equal to 4, then 6, then 8. Right? So we can add a third argument. So that can be actually applied to our slice operator as well. So what I have to do is I just put a colon 2. So let's see what happens here. So what happens here is that I first start at position 0, which is apple, which is in my list. Then I add 2 to the position. So we are at 3. Okay. So, sorry, we add 2 to 0, which is position 2. So strawberries is at position 2. So strawberries is in our final list. Then we add 2 to position 2, which is position 4. So bananas is position 4. So we have bananas over here. This is very similar to the range, all right, except that instead of commas, they're separated by colons, and instead of being in parentheses, they are in square brackets. But um, yeah, this is quite similar to the range function, and it only applies to the position numbers as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this lesson on list comprehension and slice operators. If you like this video, then please consider giving a like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in another video.